The mainstream media is lying about Bad Bunny and the Super Bowl halftime ratings, and now they're caught red-handed. They will tell you just how low viewership went, dropped, and yes, folks, the receipts are in. Half of all audiences exited their TV screens when Bad Bunny came on the scene.
I believe it.
But the media, they don't want you to know what we're about to bring.
I believe it.
And hold it, ladies and gentlemen. I got to cut in right now and break into a video that we had prepared for you to go today with breaking news brought your way. I'm going to explain what the heck is going on with the Nielsen numbers and Samba and all of that, and then we'll get back to your regularly scheduled truth-telling expertise. We'll get to the Samba stuff in just a minute, but first of all, I want to talk about what just came out last night, and this is what I've got here on X, so that you understand how the game is played. Samba measured households watching the Super Bowl and Super Bowl halftime on TV. Nielsen changed the way they measured the ratings and admitted in the fine print they're counting devices, internet impressions, out-of-home viewing, etc. Here are the numbers, folks, coming in from Nielsen, and we'll get to Samba in just a minute, as I promised. Samba says that the halftime show featuring Bad Bunny dropped 38%, and I believe them, and I'll explain why. Nielsen has something else, but you got to understand what's going on. The propaganda here is off the charts. It's unbelievable. And you don't have to buy into a conspiracy. I'm literally going to show it to you right now, how they're fudging the numbers.
Yep, and that's why
it says Super Bowl 60 delivers 124.9 million viewers. The Nielsen press release that came out late last night. It says February 10th, 2026. An estimated 124.9 million viewers watched Super Bowl 60 on Sunday, February 8th, according to Nielsen's Big Data Plus panel measurement. Now, don't miss that. You could just read over that and be like, well, that's just Nielsen. No, it's not. There's something here you got to see. They're faking the numbers. They're lying to your face. Well, they're not lying, but it's easily misleading.
I saw another.
And I'm going to unmislead.
Someone else say out on a short. It was a short on YouTube, and of course he was a liberal leftist, and he was talking about how Bad Bunny's performance was one of the greatest performances of all time. I mean, that's just he likened it to Michael Jackson. I kid you not. That's how brainwashed these people are. Like, I don't care. Like, you want to be upset that it's in Spanish and it didn't represent America. Totally understand that argument. And we can go back and forth. But if you ever put Bad Bunny in the category of Michael Jackson, I will slap the taste out your mouth. Like, that's straight up music blasphemy, bro. Okay? Like, and the guy was black. I was ashamed. But we need to make sure that and the reason I bring him up is because he said, 135 million people watched the halftime Super Bowl performance. And that's, I can't wait till Pro gets to it, because that's objectively false. There's no way 130 million people watched the halftime show, let alone watched the Bad Bunny halftime show. And they lied about the numbers, and this is how they did it.
NBC's presentation of Super Bowl 60 ranks as the second most watched Super Bowl in history. No, it does not.
No, it does not.
And I'll show you again in this article, in this press release, behind the 127.7 million viewers who watched last year's Super Bowl. This, they say, is the first Super Bowl to be reported.
So he's going to say it, but this is the first Super Bowl to use Nielsen's new measurement. And why? Okay, so think about this. The real Nielsen measurement, the real one that everyone's used to, was last year with Kendrick. So the 127.7, that's a real number. This Big Data Plus panel measurement, completely made up. And it's made up to uphold the propaganda that everyone watched the Super Bowl of Bad Bunny, because they cannot lose face. And it's a complete lie.
Using Nielsen's Big Data Plus panel measurement methodology.
They dropped 40% of viewership at the halftime show, and it went to Charlie Kirk and TPUSA. 40%. And it's not 137 million that they lost. He'll get there.
Oh, really? Okay, well, what's that?
Yeah, what is that?
It says it was officially rolled out in September of 2025, but this is the first time they've ever used it. Big data plus panel.
So they rolled this new measurement out in September of last year, September 2025, okay? How long do you think they knew that Bad Bunny was going to be the headliner? Do you think that this is an anticipation of knowing what was going to happen because of all the rhetoric? I don't know. I think there's an argument there. They've never used this measurement. Mind you, they've had it since September of last year. What? That's 6 months ago. Never used it one time. And the only time that they've used it is for this Super Bowl halftime show, okay?
Provides the most accurate TV measurement to date. Oh, really does it?
Oh, it's the most accurate. Okay.
What is it?
Yeah.
And it goes on to talk about the halftime show featuring Bad Bunny averaged 128, which means, by the way, folks, if, let's see, the second quarter, it says, oh, there we go. Viewership peaked at 137.8 million viewers during the second quarter. The halftime show comes after the second quarter. So they're measuring that 10 million people left the halftime show. Okay. That adds.
They're measuring 10 people, right? 10 million people. So not 10 people. 10 million people left the halftime show, okay?
Up exactly. Remember, folks, we were looking at the concurrent viewers for TPUSA.
Mm-hmm.
TPUSA appears to have pulled 10 million people away from the halftime show.
Okay.
Yep. Makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But get ready, because here's what's different. Audience estimates are inclusive of out-of-home and digital viewing. Out-of-home means they're just assuming now the number of people who are in bars, hospitals, airports, etc. watching it. And digital viewing now, we don't know what this is exactly. Are these internet impressions? This is just like viewing something on social media. If you see a highlight on X, does that count as digital viewing? Mobile PC, MVPD app. Scroll down with me. Okay, folks, by the way, just look at this, okay? Since 2021, okay, the numbers got bad. 95 million. Oh, that's bad. Under 100 million. That's really bad. And they've been going up steadily. Now, how did that happen? Well, scroll down with me here, and it says this. This is the fine print that nobody reads and tells you about. Super Bowl 60 in 2026 was the first Super Bowl reported using Nielsen's big data plus panel methodology. All prior reporting used Nielsen's panel-only measurement. Now, what that means is that the numbers here are not being measured the same. So when you see that the numbers for Super Bowl 60 drop by 3 million, it's far worse than that.
That is where we're at, okay? This is the first time that they've used this measurement, which means it's being buffed. It's a buff. And it's a major buff. It's such a major buff because, like you said, we don't know what these impressions are. We don't know if they're counting people watching clips on X or on YouTube or whatever it is. We don't know the measurement of this big data and out of home. So out of home is probably the biggest fudge of the numbers. So people that are not watching it at home, I don't even know how they're measuring who's not at home, but they're trying to say, this amount of people weren't home. They watched it in a bar. They watched it at someone else's house, or they watched it at a restaurant or whatever. They watched it at a sports bar or an event. So we're going to use this. There's no way to really measure. They're just making that number up. That's 100% made up. That's an estimate. All right.
Because up until this Super Bowl, up until now, they never measured whatever the heck they're measuring with mobile devices that they don't explain. Now, if you're
They never measured mobile devices. They never measured mobile devices ever. They never included a methodology. Why? Because they don't. You can't. There's no way for them to know when and how you're watching it. They can track it on the phone if they get your phone, but they can't extract that data. They can only extract the data on their end, right? But they don't have access to X's servers or YouTube servers or anything like that. There's no real methodology to understand, and that's why It's just a guess.
Advertiser, maybe it's helpful to know how many people are viewing this stuff mobily. But this is why Samba's accurate when they say there's a 38% drop in TVs, in households watching TVs. And Nielsen is padding this thing. They're padding it, and they're admitting it down here.
Told you.
They're admitting that they're Paddington Bear this year using a new system.
Yep.
And you'll also notice they say the first Super Bowl to include out-of-home viewing was 5 years ago. Nielsen began including out-of-home viewing into its national TV measurement in September of 2020, which means that the first Super Bowl that was measured that way was 2021, right? And if we go up here, what do we see, ladies and gentlemen?
Big jump in the
If we go to
numbers.
2021, 95 million and started rising ever since. This is the first time they've measured using all of this, social media stuff. And we don't know what that means exactly, but one thing we do know is these are not the same numbers. These are not the same measurements that are happening that always happened in the years prior. This is new. This is different. Variety is stumbling over itself trying to report this. Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show reached an average of 128.2 million viewers, breaking various NFL social media records. Huh? Are you telling me that the halftime show was viewed on social media 128.2 million times? What is going on here? The amount of smoke and mirrors is nonsense about this. Like, stop the propaganda.
100%. So I wanted to set that up so that we're on the same page, that we understand that the Super Bowl halftime show, who cares how you feel about it? You can feel how you want to feel about it. No one's going to take that away. But what I want to hammer in is the reality of the numbers. And the reality of the numbers is this 128 million, this 135 peak million is false. It is a new way that they're measuring the numbers based on estimation and projection on mobile devices, mobile PC, and out of home, which they used out of home 5 years ago. But these numbers are there's no way to truly measure this stuff. They're just making it up. Now I want to get to the Samba part because I think that's important. All right, here we go. They're gonna bring in these guys.
Lamar television, and the data tells an interesting story. Our latest viewership insights reveal 48.6 million U.S. households. By the way, they put it somewhere around maybe 100 million, 120 million, right? Because a household has multiple people in it. Most of them, households tuned into Super Bowl 60, representing a 13% decrease from last year's game. But only 26.5 million U.S. households watched Bad Bunny's halftime performance, down 39% from Kendrick Lamar's 2025 show. Down 39%. What else does that mean? Folks, look at the difference in those who tuned in the Super Bowl and those who tuned in the halftime show.
Okay, so these numbers are very, very important. All right. So 48.6 million U.S. households tuned in to tuned into the Super Bowl. All right. So that's important to understand, like you said, because that's households. So that's not when you see 128 million or 135 million, they're talking about people, individuals, but the households obviously have multiple people in them, right? So 48.6, and if the average household, let's just say, is 4, that's $186 million. 186. If, let's say, 48.6 times 3, it's 144 million people, right? So it's showing that these households, that's like who tuned in to the Super Bowl, and it's 13% decrease from last year, right? So the total number of households who watched the Super Bowl decreased 13% from the previous year. Now, out of the 48.6, my bad, guys. I didn't mean to. I hit the wrong button. Hold on. All right. Out of the 48.6, only 26.5 watched the halftime show. Okay? That's a 40% decrease. 39, but let's just round. 40% decrease of the viewership. Okay? Now, if you're going to pad those numbers, you're going to pad with the out of home and the mobile devices. Those two things are what's making that up. But if the trend of the household is 40%, you probably can take that and extrapolate that over the mobile devices. The out of home, no, because the bar, the restaurant, whatever the event is, they're going to play the whole thing start to finish. There's no, they're not going to cut it out. Or who knows? Who knows though? Actually, I take that back, because out of home, they could just switch it over to the TPUSA. They could. I don't know, but that's still a possibility. But I would say the 40% drop in the household televisions turning off the Bad Bunny halftime show is a significant number, and that would probably extrapolate across the board, not just the households with the TVs, okay? And if that's being said, there's no way